What's up, Amazon sellers, and welcome back to the weekly show where we bring you some news, some opinion, and hopefully a laugh or two. We, of course, have some stats, maybe the occasional business maxim to share with you, and we are here to answer any and all of your questions about Amazon. So if you're curious about retail arbitrage, maybe you're having some obstreperous online arbitrage issues, or you just want to dive into wholesale, or maybe you just got to keep a quandary. Well, you can drop it in the chat and we will help. For those of you who may be new here, I'm Chris Grant, and to my right is my rebarbative co-host, Chris Rasick. Chris, how's it going, man?
It's going pretty good. Happy week one Sunday NFL kickoff to you. It's been fun. My Packers are holding the lead right now, so far it's a happy day. While we're always give it a couple minutes for some people to pop in, I don't know how normal this is. It's probably more normal than I realize, but the rest of my family, my wife and the girls here, whenever they come home from anywhere, basically, minimum one of them is racing to the bathroom. So I don't know what it is, but there's at least one of them, and it's just a mad dash up the stairs to the bathroom. And then my girls like to just take stuff out of their pockets and kind of chuck it and place it wherever. Any flat surface is available to them as far as as far in their minds, right? So anyway, and my wife is famous for losing debit cards. So the one day they came home and I noticed there was a stack of my wife's driver's license, debit card, and like some dollar bills on the windowsill in the bathroom, right? So obviously it was her turn to race to the bathroom whenever they got home. And then over the next 24 hours or so, I noticed that when she went to work the next day, the debit card and the license was gone, but the dollar bills were there still. And then we had a mid 60s day, which is a little breezy here, little taste of fall or something around here. And so the one morning I walked into the bathroom, and two things had happened. They had left the window open to catch the breeze in the bathroom, and also left the toilet seat up. So there was literally $1 in the toilet. It just caught the fold, and so I have definitive, undeniable proof that my wife flushes money down the toilet.
How did she like it when you shared with her that you have that evidence?
Well, I have a bit of a reputation for being pretty cheap, so she was wondering if I was going to fish it out of the toilet. So I didn't need that $1. I let it go.
I would have. I hate to say it, I would have. Speaking of bathroom stories, I've got one too.
Nice.
So they tell you if you want to be interesting, live an interesting life, and I try to say yes to those kind of opportunities. Well, on Friday night, I had to spend the evening in the hospital. Now, not for me. My wife has kidney stones again. Fortunately, they're microstones this time, so no surgery, just some a lot of good pain meds and things like that. But while we're in the waiting room of the hospital, this older gentleman sitting across from us in a wheelchair, and he has an aide with him. He's obviously there for a heart issue of some sort. He had EKG leads up and down his body, and he's he wants to chat. Now, whenever an older person wants to chat, I am usually willing to do so, because you never know when you might pick up a time-tested nugget of wisdom, or they might just say something really freaking funny, because that brain-to-mouth filter tends to revert back just like children's. And so I'm happy to chat with him a little bit. Uh, and his aide walked away, and he's like, man, he's like, I hate to do this, but I'm on some medication, and if I don't get to the restroom, it's going to be a problem. Like, can you help me?
Mm.
Yeah, you know, it the right thing to do is to help the man. So I, kind of walk him to the restroom and get him situated. I don't have to, do much other than just make sure he's got some steady hands to get over there, and then wait for him. And I'm like, okay, well, uh, about halfway through, he's like, you know what? He's like, this is not gonna be this is not gonna be a number one. And I was like, oh, so now I have to stand in the restroom with this gentleman while he proceeds to take a number two.
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll pass the time. I can scroll Twitter. I can, act like I'm somewhere else. But no, he decides that he wants to talk. And so while he's doing his business, he's like, young man, he's like, so you like fishing? And I'm like, well, who doesn't like fishing? It's
good, because I dropped my phone in the toilet.
Right. And so, yeah, that was it. Fortunately, I was so glad. I was very worried. I was girding my loins to have to help him up off of the commode. Fortunately, he was able to handle all of that, and he just needed to help back to his wheelchair. And so, yeah, it was interesting. And then, he leaves, and my wife proceeds to laugh so hard because I had to help an older gentleman use the restroom and hang out in there. So yeah, that was my Friday evening.
Maybe, well, it would have been funny if she laughed hard enough to pass the stones, but it's just, they always say, nice guys finish number two.
Yes. Yeah, you are absolutely right. Well, let's dive into some news. I'm glad everybody got a little chuckle out of that. Let's dive into some news, and of course, if you guys have questions, please make sure to drop them in the chat. That's what we're here for every Sunday and Wednesday. We want to answer your guys' questions, help you guys out, help your businesses any way we can. So Amazon is going to have to answer for inflated marketplace prices. Now, this is a lawsuit going back to 2021, but a federal judge has just ruled that Amazon has to face a class action lawsuit over third-party seller prices, essentially. So here's what happening. Back in 2021, customers sued Amazon claiming the company uses a platform most favored nation clause. That's a fancy way of saying Amazon stopped sellers from offering cheaper prices on other sites. That's correct. That is not incorrect. So they are right there. The judge looked at the evidence and said, yeah, that looks like a most favored nation clause and policy in place. So now anyone who's bought more than 5 items from the Amazon marketplace since May of 2017, now they were very specific and said Amazon marketplace, which I'm guessing this means if you've only ever bought items from Amazon first party, you're not part of this certified class. But I mean, who has only bought from Amazon first party since 2017? But you're in the certified class. That is literally hundreds of millions of shoppers. So now here's why it matters. The argument is the same one that the FTC and about a dozen other states made in their 2023 antitrust lawsuit, one that has not been dropped but has been pushed back to, I believe, October of this year. So Amazon's going to be fighting this battle on more than one front. And both lawsuits essentially say, well, Amazon's rules keep prices higher, not just on Amazon, but everywhere. Amazon says its practices actually benefit consumers and are the essence of competition. Now, I'm not exactly sure what kind of lawyer or mental gymnastics it takes to suss that out, but I'm not sure competition means the same thing to them and to us, at least as consumers. And Amazon's argument, well, it's going to be tested in court. So hopefully their high-priced lawyers are going to come in handy here. But now, if plaintiffs actually win in this particular lawsuit, this could reshape how Amazon deals with third-party sellers and maybe how you can price across multiple marketplaces. Or does Amazon find another loophole? We don't know. So this is something that I find interesting. I think it's something to keep an eye on because it may shape future policy. I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah, you could see this. You could see this playing out a couple different ways. Like Cheryl. Cheryl thinks it'll lead to more high pricing errors. This is, correct me if I'm wrong, this is actually in the other direction. They're saying that the price on Amazon is higher, and it's tapping into the rule that Amazon has that you can't offer the price cheaper on another platform. So I wouldn't think it leads to more high pricing errors. Hopefully, if it goes the way it's laid out, at least the case so far, it would lead to less restrictions on obviously other marketplaces, sellers selling elsewhere. What I would hope is that there isn't kind of an indirect fallout as far as Amazon getting more involved in what our prices are. It could lead to more competition. Obviously, if Amazon is forced to loosen up on the floor of the pricing, that could cause issues for arbitrage sellers, third-party sellers in general, because that could lead prices to drop on Amazon. And specifically arbitragers, we need those inefficiencies. So if somebody gets a batch of something, or somebody needs to clear something out, it could open a path to actual clearance prices on Amazon. So it could lower the average ticket price per item. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But and the one thing I do wonder which I would imagine one of the cases, probably the federal case, is going to try to drag its feet, because one case, if it moves faster than the other, creates a precedent for the other one, even though they're different jurisdictions.
Yeah, it'll be very, very interesting. I guess the only thing I don't want to see is I don't want to see Amazon come out with some sort of OTDR style metric for how competitive you are compared to prices on other places around the internet. Because obviously they'd have to do scraping and using AI for that. And well, I mean, it would not be great. I don't think so. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yep.
Gap and Old Navy are going to be trying a makeover. And this, I don't know. I think this is indicative of something. So these two brands that are best known for affordable basics, they're officially getting into the beauty game. Gap CEO Richard Dixon announced a major expansion into beauty and cosmetics. Gap stores are going to launch a fragrance line next year. Old Navy is going to start stocking beauty, skincare, and hair care products this fall in stores. You're going to be able to see brands like ELF or Elf Beauty, ELF Beauty, Mario Badescu, or whatever that name is, and some Korean beauty staples. But they're going to be looking at pricing everything $25 and under. So very, very interesting. And they said that there will be more to come, actual Gap branded products as well. Now, why does this even matter? Well, there are more traditional retailers are now waking up to the fact that beauty is a great category to be in, especially at a time when clothing and shoes and things like that are having a bit of a drawback. Beauty is it's high margin, it's much more consumable, and for Gap and Old Navy, they hope that it will pull in repeat foot traffic because if I'm here to get, another thing of spackle or foundation, well, why not grab that cute new top I saw at the same time? For arbitrage sellers, this may mean some more clearance opportunities as Gap and Old Navy experiment with what beauty assortments work in their stores. And we just know that, more shelves equals more clearance, more discounts, more sales, et cetera, and so on. How much of the stuff from Gap makes its way over to the Gap clearance website and so on. And this brings in new competition to some price sensitive beauty categories, which is always good when we're trying to arbitrage to a marketplace that offers much higher velocity. So yeah, I thought this was interesting. And at first I was like, that didn't make a whole lot of sense, but it absolutely does. I know that this CEO is trying to bring Gap back. And I think this may have been a really good move.
Yeah, it was only within the last week or so that we talked about Ulta reporting the earnings that exceeded expectations. They're doing really well. They got out of Target, I believe, and kind of decided to expand more solo stores, more flagship stores that are Ulta only. As far as I know, I believe Kohl's and Sephora, I think that partnership is going well.
Hmm.
Um, so and then you have here's the takeaway, or for one of the takeaways for arbitrage sellers, kind of zooming out, on a broader perspective. You have Gap and Old Navy kind of treading water. Obviously every brick and mortar store is fighting to get foot traffic in because it's eroding away as more people move to e-commerce, right? So think about what it means for Gap and Old Navy for the CEO to decide a path to higher profitability is beauty products, and then consider Ulta's strong earnings. So we as Amazon sellers can take our cues from highly paid executives and the strategy decisions that they make. So that what I'm getting at is the people who abandoned beauty because they had a perception that we were losing too many brands. That was probably the wrong move, right? Because it's a very strong category. You have multiple tiers within beauty, so that which makes it from a unit perspective bulletproof as far as recession and bad economic news, right? Because you can go from Chanel, Dior, Tom Ford down to mid-tier brands. And
Hmm.
now, and those mid-tier brands are going to be in Kohl's, they're going to be in Sephora, they're going to be in Ulta, now they're going to be in Gap and Old Navy. So from a strategy perspective, the people who are a little bit too quick to whine as more and more of the Estee Lauder umbrella gets crossed off the list. You need to look at you need to look at the bigger picture. You can't
Hmm.
just, those people said, all right, screw it, I'm done with beauty, they're taking too much away. They're counting old profits from years ago and old units that they sold, and they're like, well, it's going to get harder, so I'm just not going to do it at all. That's you need to look at the strategy and see how available this beauty stuff is. So sometimes that's kind of like that's a good lesson in not letting emotions guide your business, and instead
Exactly.
kind of looking at business strategy and following the movements of big corporations.
Yeah, I agree 100%. We might as well let them pay for the high price consultants, and if we just pay a little attention, we can take some serious takeaways into our own business.
Yeah, and that they mentioned Korean brands. I like that because that brings familiarity to a whole new batch of brands.
Hmm.
And then I'm also curious. Old Navy. I don't know if Gap does the same thing, but Old Navy, um, pretty aggressive with their Old Navy cash.
Yes,
So I wonder if that will be. Uh, I wonder if it'll be exempt or whether it's included in the loyalty perks too.
that is a great question. Yeah, and Kevin, yeah, Eli's focus is largely beauty. Yeah, he loves that category. Something I got a message, and it came across. I think it came across Friday, but I was pretty happy with it. It is from someone who is a member of OAC Plus, and it was something that took us a while to get through. But he messaged me and he said, "Chris, thanks for all your help. Uh, Finally got reinstated by Amazon on Thursday." And this is something that we have been working on since August 22nd. So not an incredibly long time, but longer than anybody wants to have to deal with something like this. Now, what did we do for him? Well, he got a POA, he got some guidance, what kind of documents to put together, all of that stuff, and that is all included in the OAC Plus community. And I know that I bring this up every single week, but we are building something that, in my opinion, is going to be best in class for Amazon sellers. I actually just uploaded another course today to try to help people be able to take advantage of credit card points and miles and credit card cash back and all of that. So I think we've got 96 hours worth of content up. That actually does not include my entire back catalog of office hours videos that are thrown around inside of there. So there's probably close to 200 hours worth of Amazon content in there. Um, on top of all of that, you get leads 24/7, Amazon to Amazon flip leads. You get free access to Storefront Stalker Pro. You get live over the shoulder sourcing sessions with Chris every single Monday night. You get coaching calls once a week on Thursday afternoons. You get free entry into every single OA challenge going forward. Of course, the suspension support we just talked about. This is number 4. We've been around for a little over a month, and this is the 4th person who's gotten their account reinstated. Uh, we of course have special guest interviews. We've had Saul in there. We've had Steve French in there. We've had Joe Hart in there so far. We've got a big seller snap presentation coming this Thursday. Um, we've got a therapist coming. Like, we've got a ton of stuff on its way to help the community. So if you're interested in joining, now is the time to do it as we head into Q4. If you want to head over to oachallenge.com/plus, there's also a link down in the video description and join the community. It is turning out to be even better than the first time we had this community, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. I still don't have a good way to summarize everything that you get out of it. The closest thing I came up with since our last show was they say there's a million ways to make $1 million on Amazon, and there's almost as many ways in the OAC Plus. That's Yeah, it's just too much stuff to list. I mean, you can kind of focus on anything wholesale. There's a wholesale dedicated wholesale channel. There's a wholesale course in there. Um, Amazon influencer. You want to try that? There's a course in there. If you're not getting enough credit card perks. You want to maximize the high volume of inventory that you buy anyway. There's a course in there for that, and a dedicated channel. I mean, there's so many different ways to become a better seller and make more money. It's there's no way to make this a short promo to do it
Right.
justice, to be honest.
Yeah, I wish we could, but yeah, we'd love to have you in there. We are looking for people who are ready to really. I don't want to say crush this, because it's not just for the people who are looking to grow into multi-million dollar businesses. Although we'd love to have you too, but I think this is for everybody, everyone who just wants good information, who wants help when they need it, who wants to support other sellers. It's the place to be. And thanks, CP. And yeah, Polly, yeah, we've got a ticketing system. You can get one-to-one support on just about anything. You want a lead reviewed, we got you. You need to know how to get past Amazon not giving you enough reimbursement, we got you there. Yeah, it is a veritable smorgasbord. I appreciate that, CP. All right, last piece of news, and then we will get to your guys' questions. This one just came out the other day from payments.com. Nearly 10% of all, underline that word, all retail spend now flows through Amazon. So the U.S. retail story of the last 25 years has kind of been a two-horse race. Walmart owned the late 20th century with supercenters and low prices. Amazon came in and redefined the 21st century with speed, convenience, and of course, the Amazon Prime membership. But as of Q2 2025, the numbers are showing that the momentum is no longer neck and neck. Amazon is decisively pulling ahead. Amazon's U.S. retail sales are up 9.5% year over year in Q2 2025, with e-commerce sales rising 9.6% and Whole Foods posting 7.5% growth. Walmart's U.S. retail sales were up just 4.6% year over year, less than half of Amazon's pace, even with grocery still acting as its kind of fortress of solitude. Now, the share of the U.S. consumer retail spending, or the total wallet share, Amazon jumped 7.6% year over year in Q2 after a 2.7% bump in Q1. Over the last 6 years, Amazon's share of the wallet has more than doubled, while Walmart's has stayed flat at around 7 to 8% of wallet share. And then we can get into category dominance. Electronics and appliances, Amazon owns 30% plus of U.S. retail spend for electronics and appliances. Walmart sits at 6%. Sporting goods, hobbies, music, and books, Amazon captures 1/3 of all spending, up from 19% in 2019. Walmart is nearly 6 times smaller in this category, which doesn't really surprise me. A lot of Walmart shoppers don't seem to strike me as readers. Um, Health and personal care, Amazon holds 7.3%. Walmart at 6.8%. Again, there's a whole lot of Walmart shoppers that don't look like soap buyers. Amazon overtook Walmart in 2022 and has held the lead since. Now, furniture and home furnishings. Amazon's now at a 19% share, widening the gap as consumers chase fast shipping and even AR, or augmented reality, for those of you in Ann Arbor, powered shopping tools. Now, grocery, of course, is where Walmart shines. Grocery is still Walmart's fortress. They have a 21% share versus Amazon's paltry 2.7%. But Amazon has grown here too, from 1.8% 6 years ago, and they're slowly chipping away. And of course, they're trying even harder right now with the introduction of same-day delivery to over 1,000 US cities. And by the end of the year, they're going to get that to 2,300 US cities. The other place that I was kind of surprised is auto parts. Walmart holds 15% of auto parts sales, while Amazon's at 9.9%, although that is up from 6% in 2019. So that gap is shrinking, and I would imagine should continue going that way. Now, why does this matter? Okay. One, I just like numbers. Okay. But two, this is really showing that Amazon's flywheel is accelerating. Like every single Prime membership is driving more loyalty. Amazon is doing everything they can to broaden the Amazon ecosphere for Prime customers. You've got TV shows, you've got sports, you've got movies, um, you've got prescriptions, health. I mean, they've got a ton of things. And that just keeps Amazon top of mind and top of funnel for when it comes to buying things. Um, every seller can expand their selection, meaning that if you want it, you need it, well, it's probably on Amazon. And of course, their fulfillment centers and their flywheel distribution model shrinks delivery times. I mean, how often can you order something in the morning and have it in the evening? It's often. And that cycle pushes Amazon's share of the wallet higher quarter after quarter. Walmart seems stuck in neutral. Like, even though they've made moves into retail media, health services, and omni-channel grocery, Walmart hasn't seemed to shift consumer perception. And of course, they are not really winning over sellers at the moment to try to help them expand their own catalog and make Walmart a place for to be the go-to store. Shoppers really still see it primarily as a brick and mortar grocer. Of course, we know that Walmart is going to try to push their online items into store with QR codes. We'll see how that works. But Amazon's growth has always been digital first. Walmart's growth is still store led. In 2025, that really kind of may be the thing that breaks this race apart and puts Amazon in the lead. It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And there's something to be said about vision too. You know, um, Walmart. It was when they were courting third party sellers. It was weird to see them forward thinking, right? They kind of just seem to default to resting on their brick and mortar dominant laurels, right? Excuse me. However, show after show, we keep talking about the innovation and the new products that Amazon is continually trying. Whether it be drones, whether it be used cars, whether it be new Hyundai cars, um, you know, Prime Video, live sports. They're sinking serious money into all of these things. So you really have to give them credit for uh, the innovation, and constantly pushing and constantly reinforcing the value of both a Prime membership and the dollars that you sink into the marketplace. And now Walmart kind of shrinking back. Now that they've kind of shut down. Now they've killed any momentum that they had built up for a third party marketplace. Where's the innovation on Walmart's part? They what do they do? They partnered with Burger King, so you get a free Whopper Junior or something once a month. That's, which I know, hold on to your butts with that. And maybe they did announce, like, what are they doing? They have Paramount Plus, but now you're going to be able to choose between Paramount Plus and something else. You'll get one of the two of them with a Walmart Plus membership, but it pales in comparison, like objectively. I'm not even being a homer for Amazon when I say that.
Yeah. I agree. It's really, I don't know. This is going to be so interesting. I don't want to speed up time, but I really want Q3 results to come out. I'm really curious if the changes at Walmart have an effect quickly on their growth of marketplace.
Hmm.
Going to be very, very curious. And then, of course, I mean, Q4 really be where it gets interesting, and how much they lose there by not being able to have the online selection of toys and things that Amazon is obviously going to have. Well, hopefully going to have. We'll see. We'll have more information on that on Wednesday. Um, all right, let's dive into some of your guys' questions. CP, isn't grocery and auto as a result of Walmart's brick and mortar presence? Yeah, most likely. I would imagine if there were more automotive parts that were available same day at Amazon, they would probably grow a little bit faster. But that's a massive, massive category. So one of my favorite categories, actually.
Love it.
All right. So Seagal, I hope. I don't know whether this is Seagal or Sigil. But however your name is pronounced, can you please comment about the new toys documentation requirements? So we talked about that this past Wednesday, and we dove into it. I'm not really sure that it's time to, cut the strings on toys quite yet. There is more information coming out this coming Wednesday. They're going to hold a webinar. Chris and I are both going to be listening into this webinar and reporting back everything that we know Wednesday afternoon at 5:30. My hope, best case scenario, is this is akin to CPC documentation, like Amazon did years ago, and one person will provide the testing documents or verify them, and then it'll be good for everybody. Worst case scenario, every single seller has to offer it if they want to continue selling toys for 12 and under. And then that's going to be a much, much harder pill to swallow. Um, while I won't say that I think Amazon always makes the right decision, um, them burning an entire category that is largely propped up by third party sellers doesn't seem like something that they would do. So, and after we get the information on Wednesday, I mean, there's going to be an opportunity to push back in the quote unquote town square. Um, you know, just recently, Amazon reconfigured one of the changes that they're making due to pushback from third party sellers. And that was the removal of some attributes. And there were some sellers who were very, very loud. Tagged Amazon seller helped quite a bit, and they changed course to make it a little less painful. So we'll have the opportunity to do that, and I know that I'll lead the pack if it's overly restrictive. Um, and at the same time, I think we need to understand why Amazon is doing this kind of thing. Amazon's fighting a class action lawsuit and a lawsuit from the government at the same time. So the last thing they want to do is open themselves up to a bunch of other lawsuits because, a kid gets hurt from a toy that was purchased on their marketplace. Especially since courts ruled that Amazon is the one who holds the liability, if I recall.
Right.
Parth, do you happen to know the wait time for EIN application for U.S. domestic LLC, though a non-U.S. resident? It's going to vary by state, so I can't say for sure. I've opened up, or you said EIN application. Oh, the EIN, that's usually less than a week, couple of days normally, I think. business days, that is.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I don't think it took too long.
Yeah. Luke. Yeah, Luke. So I'll tell you what. I have a Walmart Plus subscription. I will have to say, I did get it half price. I also got the in-home half price as well. It has been worth it because the prices are so cheap compared to Publix. But I still find myself at Publix for certain things. I can't get a good steak at Walmart, not to save my life.
Yeah, the grocery delivery is well worth it. I've used that quite a bit.
Yeah. EB, are you seeing a lot of closed listings for lack of matching UPCs? Looking at my account, appears to be specific brands enforced. So it's a it is a GTIN issue, is what they're calling it, which could be a UPC, could be an EAN, could be a GTIN number. But what's happening is it seems that Amazon is starting to clean up the catalog. It does seem to be happening with some brands over other brands. But if the GTIN information doesn't match the brand, it seems like they're starting to get rid of some of those. So, across one brand, out of about 250 or so listings that we've been on, we saw about 55 of them get shut down for GTIN issues. Some of them were singles, some of them were multi packs, some of them were bundles, and the GTIN information just didn't match the brand, so they're closing them down. So Amazon has made this clear that this was something that was coming, and of course, now that we're getting toward the end of Q3, this is when they historically start cleaning the catalog. So I'm not particularly surprised that this kind of thing is happening.
Yeah, and from what I've seen, it seems like the products that get an annual refresh. Like I'm seeing a lot of seasonal stuff go by the wayside, which makes a heck of a lot of sense. Especially if they have a brand new label for every Halloween or something like that. If it's a seasonal for Halloween item. So it would make sense that they probably issue that year's product with a new UPC, which renders the old ones defunct. So
there we go. All right. If it turns out to be a per seller situation, that will only open the door for a new business avenue. Let's not forget that people were selling distributors list courses so new sellers could ungate. That is true. I agree there. And here's the other thing. I'm not particularly worried, and we don't sell a whole lot of toys, but of the toys that I would want to sell, I think eBay will do just fine for them. Maybe it becomes a little bit harder because there's a little bit more supply over there, but I think it'll be all right.
I mean, somebody has to sell the toys this Q4, though.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah.
Cheryl, who's everyone using to find missing inventory? I wasn't happy with Keepa. There's a lot of different services out there. I'll tell you one you could give a shot is TrueOps. TrueOps is pretty daggone good, and they charge just 10% of what they get back. So I've dropped a link in the chat. If you go to cleartheshelf.com/TrueOps, I think you get the first $1,000 free. And then it's just 10% after that is what they do for you. So, and they're really good. Like they were private label sellers, and so they got really good about getting all their money back. And then they turned that into a service. So, all right. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns that we can help you guys out with this fine Sunday? All right. Let's see here. The Don, Amazon screwed almost all resellers with their strict ungating policies. It's only going to get worse. Uh, so many resellers lost thousands of inventory. Not many are left from years ago. Um, there's a lot of assumptions there, and it sounds like you got a bad taste in your mouth about Amazon. I get that.
There might not be a true statement in there at all. I think I disagree with everything, Don.
I don't know that they screwed over the resellers with their strict ungating policies. I think that was a reaction to a very small subset of resellers who put their toe over the line. You know, we've talked many times about literal organized crime rings selling stolen goods on the platform. I mean, unfortunately, it's difficult for a company the size of Amazon to use a scalpel. And so sometimes you've got to use a chainsaw and you've got to hack off the infected limb, even if that means taking some good tissue along with it. Now, there's a way back, though. Okay. And is ungating more difficult? Yes. Should it be more difficult than sending in a picture of your dog? Yes. Okay. Should it be as difficult as it is right now? You could argue no. Okay. Now it's only going to get worse. Well, we can't say that. We don't have a crystal ball. So I got to push back there. You know, it actually seems like the ungating issue might be getting a little bit better. I've seen way more brands only requesting 10 units on an invoice than I have seen in a long time. And there are a lot of resellers lost thousands of inventory. I will agree with you there. However, if they've been longtime listeners of this show, I think that they would have had a better time. I'm actually seeing this happen with some GTIN issues right now. I'm seeing people, lose thousands and thousands of dollars of product. I'm also noticing that a lot of those people are very deep on ASINs rather than having a wide catalog. Now, and I get it. Okay. Having a wide catalog is not the most fun. It's not the easiest thing to manage. However, it lowers your risk. Okay. You lose 10% of your ASINs because of some sort of issue, but you've got another 90% of your ASINs that you can continue selling without a problem. And then you go sell that dead stock somewhere else. Whether you want to sell it on Whatnot or eBay or Poshmark, or maybe you can take it to Walmart if they allow you to sell in that particular category. Maybe. And not many being left from years ago. I don't know. I mean, it is a transitory business. It often is. Amazon's often a gateway drug into something else. Whether that is, I found out that entrepreneurship isn't for me and I want to stick to my 9 to 5, or I move on to some sort of other business because I feel like I have more control. But I would argue that the very nature of entrepreneurship is the fact that we're working in a gray area. It doesn't matter whether you're selling on Amazon, you're selling on eBay, or you've got a stump grinding business. I mean, entrepreneurship by its very nature is just the continual ability to take pain and solve problems. And that doesn't come from me. That comes from James Dyson, someone way smarter than I am. So I don't know. I get it. I get the frustration, but on the flip side of that coin, that's why we're able to make money, is because we're willing to deal with the frustration. And that's why, normies, and I use that term playfully and in a loving manner, but normies who just rely on a 9 to 5 and don't have a side business, like they can't make money like at will because they're not willing to deal with the headaches and the things that come our way as entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and actually, it wasn't that long ago. Marketplace Pulse actually refuted the last sentence there. Not many are left from years ago. In fact, sellers, what was it? Sellers that have been in the marketplace 5 years or longer actually make up a massive percentage of the success on the catalog. So, yeah, it shouldn't have been as easy to ungate as it was, and there's going to be a pullback, right? Um, it's like the case, Amazon, if they were smart, the people that they do grant permission to sell a brand, uh, they'd probably be better served following up after the fact on whether the order was returned or not. Because you could argue that there's sellers who are buying inventory in order to get a brand ungated, and then they're returning that inventory, which is a horrible practice you should never do. But let's look at what that is. You were supposed to buy 10 or 100 or whatever the number was that Amazon told you. That's supposed to indicate that you have a supplier, right? And it doesn't have to be a distribution, doesn't have to be, it can be from a store, but 10 should get you in the door. You have the ability to get 10 units. If you return those, do you actually have a supplier at all? Because if you can't show up, if you can't still have those 10 units after you've been approved for the brand because you return the order, do you deserve to sell that brand? Have you actually accomplished anything that Amazon asked you to do in order to grant permission? No, I think that answer is no. So really they had to tighten it back up, because it got too easy, and I understand there are people, depending on when you entered the marketplace is going to dictate how you feel about the current situation. If it was never any harder than it was when you could send in pictures of your dog, yeah, you're going to probably feel that Amazon is screwing resellers. But you just don't understand that that's just a recency bias. Essentially, you're not going back far enough to what their policy actually was, before they opened it wide open. You used to have to take a picture. I had to, one of the 2 or 3 follow-ups when I was trying to ungate grocery back in 2020, I had to take a picture of the product in my hand, and I submitted it, and I didn't have the bottle of the Himalayan sea salt in the proper direction. So they asked me to retake pictures. That's what it used to be like. I used to have to, I had to buy this supply from a supplier. I had to have access to it. I had to show it in my hand in order to get grocery.
When I first got engaged, I can't even speak about in polite company what I had to do to get ungated. It's something I can only say off air. But it was weird and embarrassing to be able to get ungated in particular categories back in the day. All right, EB. Is there one or two things I should keep in mind as I launch my first eBay listing? I feel like it is day one of Amazon. Um, so, in my opinion, really great pictures is important. You know, not crazy, just on your phone, just make sure it's lit well and stuff like that. I like to, we keep like either a yardstick or a measuring tool next to the item in one of them. That way people can get a feel for how large the item is, Um, and then I would go and I would search for other items that have sold like that one, and like use the best ones that you see and model those listings. Um, that's probably the easiest thing to do. There's a lot of times, like if I see that there's, one or two people who sell a lot of something that maybe I'm selling one or two of, I honestly just steal their titles and then I will rework their descriptions if they even have descriptions. And if you have access to ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, anything like that, with the correct prompt, you can build some really great eBay listings.
Yeah, it's largely a game of mimicry. Going to the sold listings and because that's what I'm basing my prices off of anyways. But as I'm
Mhm.
looking through the sold listings, you're getting a feel for what it sells for, which indicates what you should set the price at. Um, Take a look at the titles, like Chris mentioned, see how they structure it. How many characters, what seems to be important um, as far as the information in the title. Um, there's different theories. Some people are like, you shouldn't put a number if you're selling a multi-pack. You shouldn't start it with 3-pack. You should start with brand and item, and then put the fact that it's 3-pack later on. But the solds, number one, you're always comparing solds versus listed. That's going to give you an indication of the velocity that's going to sell at, which also should influence your pricing. If there's a bunch more listed than sold, you probably need to go a little bit cheaper to make sure you move that inventory. So that's the sort of information that you're looking at. But then as you're comparing the listings to the sold items, that could clue you in on a title structure that works better than others. So you should obviously copy the sold listings as far as title structure. Take a look at the pictures that people are posting on the sold listings. Compare those to the ones that haven't sold yet, see what works better than others. And then here's the thing: if you're selling Amazon overstock and like stuff that's come back to you, if you're selling off your death pile, um, if you have a sourcing sheet, which I hope everybody does, you can actually go back to your spreadsheet, and you have you're 2 clicks away from both the Amazon listing and the source that you got it. And I go in and I copy the product descriptions on one of the two of those, and I take as much as possible. I have really lengthy product descriptions, and it is ripped straight from either the Amazon listing or my source site that I bought it from originally.
Yep, absolutely. Polly, can you explain Cheryl's question about missing inventory? Yeah. So when you use FBA, inventory goes missing sometimes, it gets damaged. Maybe it's not returned by a buyer. There's all kinds of reasons where things just kind of slip through the cracks. Now you have a couple of options. One, you can keep track of it all and you can try to get reimbursed for it, or you can outsource that to a service that will do it for you. Um, Based on the fact that it feels like beating your head against the wall to have to look up all the different reports and open up the cases and go back and forth, et cetera, and so on, it's probably worth letting a service handle it. Most of these services charge a percentage. True Ops is 10%, which is the lowest that I know of. Some of them are charged 25%. And there's used to be a service that charged a flat monthly fee, but I don't know that exists anymore. So, sorry guys, my son has an urgent matter. Okay, there we go. Let's see here. CP. I asked the group earlier, is there a recent video or guide for using Rev ROI? No, but I just wrote myself a note to make one. Jimmy, what's going on, man? Do I need to screenshot every delivery confirmation by UPS, FedEx all the time in case of Section 3, or are emails and screenshots from email notifications okay? The emails should do the trick. I have not needed to go and screenshot every confirmation from UPS, FedEx, etc. I would not take the time to do that unless you could automate it in some way.
Yeah, and if you save them, you can just print it as a PDF, which is what I do, and then I'll just stack the PDFs together
Mm-hmm.
to make my package to submit.
Oh, that's great, Cheryl. Congratulations on getting ungated and sprayer parts. That's awesome. Very super cool guy. How long should I give a test order of 5 units to sell out? And what's the protocol if it isn't selling? This is a tough question to give you like an answer, because I don't know what the history of the Keepa chart looks like. 5 orders as a test or 5 units as a test order, depending on what kind of listing it is, that could be something that expects to sell out in a week or 3 weeks or 3 months. And there's no wrong answer in how many you purchased. It just depends on, like, would I buy 5 units of something if I knew it was going to take me 3 months to sell through those? Maybe. If I'm going to make $500 in total expected profit on those 5 units, sure. I'll wait the 3 months, you know. So that one's tough to give you a definitive answer. Now, what if it isn't selling? Well, my rule is to lower the price until it sells. Because I don't want to pull it back and sell it on another platform unless there's a really good reason to do so.
Yeah, and there is a point, though, I would argue, that if it takes so long, right? If it takes 90 days to sell your 5 test units, it's no longer a test. Like that's pretty much the max quantity that you should look at purchasing, right? And then if it takes longer than 90 days and you have a liquidation process in place and you're still not through those first 5 test units, at some point in time you have to consider the test a failure, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you start worrying about long-term storage, it probably wasn't a very good test. You should probably that capital is probably better served somewhere else, unless it's massive profit, like Chris mentioned.
Yeah. Juan, I totally forgot about this, man. I was in clothing and shoes before the $5,000 application fee, but I do remember, and I remember people happily paying it because of how much money there was in it, because there were so few sellers.
Was that Amazon charged $5,000?
Amazon charged $5,000.
Interesting. I've never heard that
Yeah.
before, I don't think.
Yeah. So Cheryl, you've got a great opportunity here. You got to explain to a distributor that not all Amazon resellers are like that. And sure, they push back with most are. They obviously had a really bad, they had a bad something happen. But I think you've got an opportunity here if they're willing to continue to talk to you. If I were to come up to a distributor like this that I really wanted to get an account with, I would probably go to them and say, hey, listen, why don't I sign a distributor agreement, and let's add an addendum to that distributor agreement that I will not return any items to you except for, and then list out a couple of reasons, like if they were to send you expired goods, you should be able to return for those. If they send you damaged goods, and it's obviously their fault, and a claim cannot be filed with the shipping company, then they would need to take care of those. But outside of that, if the price just tanks, you cannot return those items to them. And I bet you that if you were willing to do something like that when other people obviously would not, I bet you they might do business with you, and maybe that turns into a really good relationship long term.
it's a good opportunity to distance yourself from certain terms.
Mm-hmm.
So you're calling those resellers. Your bad experiences were likely with flippers. Just people just following some social media trend or something like that. That's why I call myself a retailer. You know,
Mm-hmm.
my I just happen to peddle my wares on Amazon among other places. But you can kind of distance yourself from whatever generalization they seem to be making on resellers. We're either all resellers or none of us are resellers, and we need to stop calling ourselves that.
Yep. Uh, Polly's got a great point here. Yeah, eBay does seem to like people who list consistently. Absolutely should do that. Vera, what's a good cross listing tool? I don't know. I haven't really used. I think I think Listing Mirror is still around. Does Joe Lister still exist? Yeah, Joe Lister is still around. There's Seller Champ. I just don't know which one is good, and I've heard Joe Lister. I've heard bad things about Joe Lister, but I don't know. If you want to actually cross list all of your items from Amazon over to eBay, then sure, there's probably a tool you're going to want to use. But if you're just going through your death pile, I would probably create the listings myself. Deal Hunter, Rev Seller, Seller Amp. I'm a Seller Amp guy myself. Chris loves Rev Seller. Uh, but they're both good tools. I prefer Seller Amp for some of the features they have.
Yeah, and neither company would probably like that I'm saying this, but there is so much overlap now, especially in the last 12, 15 months. I'm not sure you can go wrong with either one. Just pick the one you like, pick the one you're comfortable with, and just don't have any FOMO.
Yeah, Kevin. Yeah, don't take baseballs from little kids. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'm still stuck on that. I see some people saying the guy was in the wrong, and I mean she obviously went way overboard um, on that guy. Uh, I don't know. It's a bad look for her. I know that.
What is the defense for
The
Karen?
defense was the defense, which I think is stupid. The defense of the guy was too far away from his seat, and it should have been hers. And I'm like, I think everyone scrambles to a ball when the seats aren't full.
So
So,
so you have some sort of proximity rights for where your seat is? Like,
right?
get out of here with that.
Yeah, it's not
That's
like he was
ridiculous.
stepping over, people. It was empty stands.
Yeah. I mean, what are we supposed to like, oh, this is outside of my armrests, so I have no claim. Like, no, you reach out and get your baseball.
Yeah,
And then especially if you did the right thing and you gave it to the kid, I mean that's she's getting everything she deserves.
yeah. And CP, you are correct. I mean, she was a repeat offender at the same game, gotten other people's faces and flipped off an entire section. Yeah, it is not a good look for her. Polly, when you buy 10 of an item to ungate, are you buying 10 that you found that will make a profit, or are you buying to just break even so you can ungate? I don't know that there is a right or wrong answer here. Um, Personally, I would prefer that the items are profitable. However, if I think that there is enough future profit to even have to sell at a loss to get ungated in something, I would do it. Now, I am not of the opinion that any one particular brand is going to make or break my entire business. And so I really don't pay to get ungated in anything. I will go and get auto ungated in as much as I possibly can. I always try to get auto ungated. And like, I can't sell Nike, I can't sell Adidas anymore. I can't sell Under Armour or New Balance, or all these, a lot of these brands that a lot of people have good luck with. I can't sell, but we're doing okay, with all the brands that we are ungated in. But if it was a brand, I'm like, I really got to have this one, I would say I would buy at a profit, hopefully, at a break even, absolutely, and even at a loss if it's just 10 units.
Yeah, I've only ungated a few different things, and it's always been at a loss, right? Because what I'm doing to ungate is I'm trying to find the cheapest product possible, So it's you're not going to buy, you're going to ungate a brand because of either the volume of products available on the catalog, but more than likely it's higher ticket prices. Like when you're ungating Nike, when we could, before all the mess started, you pretty much looked at socks because they were cheap. And I know there's there's a whole stereotype out there on social media that people's entire catalogs were Nike socks, and there's a running joke. I get that, but I was always looking at the cheaper products because I didn't want to invest too much money, because it was technically wasn't a given that I was going to be ungated in it, right? But you're buying those 10 units for the prospects of hundreds, probably thousands of units moving forward. So the profit margin of the units that you bought to ungate is virtually irrelevant. It's more in the same category of, I'm going to pay Amazon $40 a month to have a pro seller account because of everything else that comes with it. That's kind of the same concept that I looked at gating. So profitability was never, I never even thought about it. It was simply, what's the cheapest buy cost that I can get my 10 units so I can get off and running.
Mm-hmm. And well, Polly, you're in OAC. Bring up ungating, and I'll show you a little something to try to get your unit cost as cheap as possible. So, all right, yeah, DJ, I bet you've got some. I bet you got some crazy stories. Bet you got some crazy stories working security. Potato, how do you know if a toy is for kids under 12? It should be in the product details on Amazon. And also, like, it should be, at a source site. Like, if it's not in the product details, should be at the source site. So, and then probably a little common sense too. Like, how many toys are just for 13-year-olds and above? There's really not a lot, you know.
The good
Maybe
action
some
figures are.
science kits. Yeah, but yeah, I would look at the product details first.
I just did this last night. Another very easy way to find out is to ask Rufus on the
Oh yeah,
Amazon detail page. Just say,
there it
hey,
is.
what ages is this toy for? And it can usually find that information for you.
Yeah. Vera, do games fall under that category? I don't think that board games are going to fall under that, but we'll find out. We'll find out on Wednesday for sure. So, yeah, we'll wrap it up there for today, guys. It's 6:45. It's the start of the work week, end of the work weekend. We'll be back on Wednesday at 5:30, and we will give you more definitive answers on all of the toy information directly from Amazon's mouth. We'll do the work for you if you don't want to listen into them drone on about something as riveting as toy testing documentation. All right. So thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you guys on Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. and we'll do this all over again.